Hello, everybody. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Great to see you. Welcome, everyone, to our second creator sessions at Disco, which is very exciting. Every week, we are hosting somebody awesome, a creator, a pioneer, somebody who's thinking about the future of learning. And I'm so incredibly excited to host Rachel today. Rachel is phenomenal. Rachel is somebody I've actually had the privilege of watching and knowing for a while. And she's also one of our very early launch creators on Disco. Rachel sometimes goes by the name of Miss Rainbow Fairy for the incredible work she does, which we're going to get into in a second. Rachel has both a Bachelor of Arts and Education and is really pioneering a new form of learning, a community driven learning where people actually come together and have transformative experiences. So, Rachel, thanks so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm good. I've got my chai latte with a pumpkin spice flavor, and I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
So good. Delighted to host you. So, Rachel, just want to make sure your sound is loud enough. If there's any way you can turn it up slightly, that would be amazing.
All right. Being the yeah, I'm sorry, Candace.
If you can't, it's okay. I will just make
How about
sure.
if I talk closer? How is that sounding?
Yeah, that's way better. So,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
I'll just
Okay,
stay really close. Okay.
amazing. So Rachel, I can't wait to talk about the course that you're running, and the fact that you're running it on Disco for your spring session is
Yeah.
amazing. But what I'd love to start is, how did you get into doing the transformative work you are doing? You have an incredibly inspiring story. Bring out the Kleenex, folks, because this one's a good one. But tell our community a little bit about how you became a creator and teacher.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because we actually know each other through high school. You were a couple years older, but I went to school with your sister. And so my story, yeah, it is. There was a lot of crying growing up in my life because I was bullied from grade 1 until the end of high school. And I had a couple of what I like to call years that were off. But really, when you go through that trauma, you do it inside your brain to yourself after. And so I had a lot of trauma and a lot of sadness and also anger and questions about why don't the adults know what they're doing, basically. So I used to cry myself to sleep and like look up at the stars and just promise myself one day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to protect as many kids as I can. And I'm going to make safe spaces and I'm going to make fun spaces. I wanted to be a magical teacher. So that's what I did. I studied, visual arts. I was always very expressive. And then I went to teachers college. I also, in between that, traveled around the world and like taught overseas. And then I worked as a substitute teacher. You kind of never know where your journey is going to take you. And all the things that kind of led to what I'm doing now, I couldn't have ever seen what I was going to do. So I ended up, as a substitute teacher by choice, really focusing on social emotional learning and just really creating these safe spaces. So I would go in and kind of have a sense of like, that kid seems lonely. And I just asked like one simple question, like, are you lonely? And like, tears, and nobody's asked me. I've had no friends for years, and or kids have been bullying me. And I would be able to solve these problems very easily. So I moved into speaking and doing bullying prevention. And then when COVID hit, my entire livelihood of being a substitute teacher and then also speaking in schools kind of paused. And so I was like, with my business coach, I was like, okay, here's a moment where I need to remember people in like the depression time, people in the war times. Like a lot of people, have struggled, but you can also use that and pivot. And like, how can you do it creatively? Right. So I was like, I remember telling myself, I'm not giving myself a second to be sad or cry. I was like, I got on and I was like, we're back to the drawing board. What are we doing? So we launched this.
Amazing. Can we just?
Oh,
I just want to like take a pause to
yeah,
tell
sure.
you how amazing and inspiring your story is. As somebody who is a mom of preteens and just super aware, right, of I was at Wattpad as well in my previous world, where there are lots of preteens and teens. And so I just want to really call to that. And what I think is so interesting about creators today is that you're doing this with such purpose, right? Like your creative journey isn't just like, oh, there's an audience out there. I think I can meet it. It's really from the heart, right? Like it's you're really living your truth and sharing your truth. And just a huge shout out, because at Disco, I think the thing that I get so excited about is building a platform for creators who have passion and purpose and are really interested in finding a way to make a living doing the transformative work that they're meant to do. So just like incredible shout out. And then, yes, let's like dive into the COVID moment that we all have. I mean, same, just like you, Disco is born out of that creative moment of like, oh, now what? But really interested, especially as somebody who has been a teacher and sort of was very much in the physical world teaching. Kudos to you for saying no moment to be sad. I'm going to like reinvent this. So tell us more about the moment that sort of COVID created your virtual, your business.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that's important about my story is I've always been off the beaten track. Like I've always been doing it differently. I always say that my hair kind of describes my personality because I'm very outside of the box. And my hair doesn't even fit in those photographs. So I really was like always, feeling in my heart, and that's one of the reasons I was never a contract teacher, is because I was so focused on social emotional learning. And I know academics are important. I'm not questioning that. But my specialty, just like people would specialize in science, was social emotional learning. So I realized, I could actually completely create this and not have to answer to anybody except my own heart. And so I was just like, I recently said on one of my lives on TikTok, my heart is my boss. And then I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Because people,
I love that.
Can create that in whatever form. Maybe it's you still work for a company, but you look for a company that is heart-centered like Disco. So it's so when that happened, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's get to the drawing board. My business coach helped me do the back end of creating things, but it took a lot of steps. So it wasn't like,
right.
Like we had to work through everything, but what Disco has is like everything together that's like ready and like to go. But for us, we had to like build, and it took a long time. So I'm almost at 1 year of doing these clubs. But the first club, because, I have a learning disability, I didn't check, like we put it out and like put it on Facebook, like hopefully people will come. And then I didn't check the back end just because like I wasn't used to technology like a year ago, like I am now. And so I was so sad. I was like, nobody signed up. We did this whole like launch. And, like I was so excited. And this family said that they had all these other friends that were going to sign, and no one signed up. But the thing was, I hadn't checked the back end. And so it had been like, so the day before, and I didn't even remember what day I was going to like actually do this course. My business coach was like, we should just check. Let's just like look and see. And we had like 9 people signed up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it tomorrow. So I, kind of like got everything prepared, and it was the best thing ever. And when we finished the summer club, the kids were like, you have to continue fall. And then when the fall club ended, they said, you have to run this for the next 20 years, at which point I said, I will be in my 60s, but okay. And it will not be called preteen anymore. And so it's just been running like that, but we're still kind of like, we were still trying to like figure out all these different things. By the time Winter Club came, we had so many kids signed up internationally that I had to open a second cohort. And now I'm so excited to be on Disco, because now this is kind of like even a bigger reach, and everything is kind of like beautifully like accessible, right? So the kids can actually message each other outside, because before they were like making their own chats, and I was like, I don't know, you guys like do your own thing. Like it was more kind of disjointed. So now it's like everything is together, and it feels really good.
Oh, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I think what's so interesting, right? The comment you're making is like the entire world had to figure out, how do we do virtual, right? And so even the conversation we're having, but there it's complicated. I think what people don't realize is that to actually do this well, to connect all the dots, and you're pretty advanced, right? Like you got TikTok going on, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You've got all these different places where you're kind of sharing your message. How do you get people into your paid program and into your course, that's exactly the pain point that, we're interested in solving, and making it easy for creators, but for learners as well, right? To have this like seamless experience versus having to go there. So, what I would love to do, Rachel, because it's so exciting, is let's just show everybody what your course is about and your amazing landing page that you have created. So I am going to put this on. So this is Rachel's amazing preteen club. We're going to talk a lot about TikTok because you're clearly amazing at it. But as you can see here, it actually, people can register, they can apply, but this is what I really wanted to show you because it's very inspiring.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel Weinstock and I'm so grateful to connect with you today. I am the founder of Preteen.
Actually, I just want to make sure the sound is working. Let's just do a double check on this.
I can hear it on my end, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, we are good. Sorry, let's keep going. There we go.
Teen Club for kids. It such my honor to be able to support and empower amazing kids from all around the world through art, mindfulness, and creativity. I also am the founder of Enough is Enough, getting to the heart of bullying prevention, and I totally focus on creating safe and just empowered spaces for kids. Now, I know you have preteens. They're probably amazing, and they might not want to hear from their parents about this cool new program. So I've done all the heavy lifting. All you have to do is click the link below, let them watch the video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Okay, bye.
So fun. And let's do that. Let's actually go down, as you can see on your landing page, and click the link below.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel Weinstock and I'm so excited that you are here. So Preteen Club, what is it? It is a mindfulness and creativity program, an international program for preteens online, but it really is such an amazing space. I always call preteen like kind of like a dreamland, because you know when you're gonna go to camp and you think like, oh, everyone's gonna be so welcoming, I'm gonna make so many friends, and hopefully that happens, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So Preteen Club, literally you go on and you will have instantly an international group of friends that are so kind and welcoming, genuinely. And we explore things like mindfulness, creativity. We definitely have some laugh attacks because we do some theater games in there. And it's just such an amazing space to really connect with other kids from all over the world and just get to know yourself more. So I'm so excited to have you as part of our community. And just a little bit more information about me. So I am also, besides being the founder of Preteen Club, I also am a teacher. I'm also an artist, so I have a long time of exploring different kinds of art forms like dance and theater, visual arts, painting, photography. I love expressing myself and I love laughing. That's definitely something that people know about me as well. So I'm really looking forward to you joining our community and I can't wait to meet you online soon. Okay, bye.
So amazing. And so on this landing page, just really quickly, I think it's just really powerful, right? Like why kids will like it, what other parents say, which we'll get into. And we're going to get into TikTok, but I think for others, just a quick view of the work you're doing.
You're allowed to feel like you're allowed to be having a bad day, but if you want to feel better and are having trouble feeling better, we can help.
That's so perfectly said. Like, you can show up, and you all know this space is like you show up however you show up. Like the fact that you are the fact that you are here and showing up is amazing. And we accept whatever state you're in. Like, I kind of am, pumping you up and excited to see you all. And that's why we have like a dancing intro. But if you are feeling not great, that is courageous and brave. And we've got you. And we just want to support you in whatever state. Okay?
Okay. Thanks.
Didn't it make you feel a little bit?
So great. So I'm going to stop sharing, although I could share for a long time. It's really beautiful. And one of the things, I know we have different creators from all different, walks of life. Some are, business, teaching sales, to some are passionpreneurs, lots of different creators. But let's sort of dive in to the experience of community-based learning. And, I know that, COVID was the accelerant, but what if you learned and what have you witnessed about bringing groups of people together live? Like, what is it about this format that works so well?
So for years, I've been sharing these amazing transformational moments only with these kids in person when I'd substitute teach or internationally teach. Nobody saw it except the kids that were there that day. And so one of the things that's happened is people would always reach out to me and be like, I really wish my child was in your class. And I was like, well, if they ain't in Canada on one day specifically with the school, they're not going to be there. Right. So, and I would always have people saying, we need to clone you. We need, I wish my kid could have you as a teacher forever. I wish you could be a mentor. And I didn't know how to put all the pieces together because I also train as a life coach, specializing in working with kids. Right. So I'm also coaching as well as running this program, but I didn't know how to like bring everything together again. Right. So when I did this pilot program in the summer, I was like, whoa, you know how you like connect the dots? I was like, wait. I'm like, no longer do you have to be in Canada. Like I have kids from Mexico. I have kids in Australia. I have kids from like all over the world. I have someone new in Bali that is coming at 6 a.m. to join tonight's class, like our time Thursday. Right. So it just became, I've always said that I want the world to be like my school. Like I want to impact all children all over the world. So it became like that, right? With cohort-based learning online, it was like I was no longer like tied to just a school board, just a schoolroom. Like I was actually open to like whoever felt connected with this work. And the kids, you know, during COVID, of course, like we're talking about mental health in that video on TikTok, their deep feelings of struggle, of like loneliness that has always been there, but it's increased and it's rising. And there's really serious concerns like that parents are well aware of now in schools, and there's more attention to that. Joining Preteen Club has like allowed kids to deeply connect in all of different parts of the world in a space where, you know, a lot of people are like, we're online all the time. Like, you have not been online the way I run it online. Like it's a very different energy. And it's interesting because even my lives on TikTok, they're with adults, and some of my kids follow me. And one of my kids was following me, and another adult was saying that she was really having a hard time. She was really feeling lonely. And I was kind of doing the same thing that I do in terms of preteen, like supporting and coaching. And my kid from preteen said, this is like preteen, but with adults. So creating that really supportive environment has been, I just feel like unlimited now that it's online. I literally feel like the world is like my oyster, and it's just like
it's so profound, right? I mean, like, you know, what you say is just so true. And it's so what we realized, right? Which is like, yeah, before when we were thinking about cohort-based courses, it was like, how many people in my neighborhood, and I have to rent a space, and I got to figure this out. And now, you know, look at what you're doing. And I think you said something very, very astute, which is the way people are connecting with me online versus other ways. Like, yeah, this is transformational, right? Like, you know, in my view, this is as big a shift as mobile was, right? How we use the internet mobile, as to how synchronous experiences allow us to connect and have learning experiences, because people learn from each other and people learn from being in that group. So there's so many things I want to talk about. And I actually really, really want to encourage people to ask questions on our Zoom as well. You can just put the questions in the chat, and I will ask Rachel. The next thing I thought would be really interesting to talk about, we actually have a Fast Company article about this very thing, which is totally amazing, and huge kudos to you. It was so exciting to sort of talk about what TikTok is sort of doing for you and how you think about social platforms, and then also what it's not, right? Because I think it's the combo that is super interesting to us. But tell us about TikTok and how you're using social media, and what's the purpose social media plays in sort of building your business of being, you know, a creator.
Okay, my learning disability neurodivergent brain just went, oh my God, so many questions.
Okay, too many things. One question at a time. Tell us about TikTok. Tell us about how you're using TikTok and what you use it for.
Yeah, so my business coach, like I was when I was speaking in person, like the kids would be like doing this like dance, and I'd be like, TikTok, this like really weird dancing platform. I had no idea. I was like, I'm not interested in that. But I'm always late to the party. I feel like I joined Facebook like years later and like started watching Friends, the show, 20 years late. Like I'm just late to the party. So I was like, this time I'm going to be on time.
You are not late. You are right there.
Yeah. So I know that like, you know, Instagram, I've been trying to grow Instagram for like 8 years, and I have like 1,836 or something. I today hit, well, before I got on, I was like 1,805, I think. So I, in the course of 3 weeks, have built up from like 150 to now what I have today. So what I did was, first of all, I have content that is like, you know, so connected to my heart, like so what I believe. So the videos, like I have, all the videos I have are permission with the kids because I'm very consent based, and also with the families. So anything I have up there is with that. But it's finally capturing these moments that I always, for like 20 years of education, was like, nobody can see except me and the kids. Because I wanted to showcase what is possible in how we work with kids, how we support them, how intelligent they are. Because I think a lot of kids will talk about how I treat them like differently than many adults do, because I really value them as a human, because I just see them as like a younger human than me, but they have so much to give and like so much wisdom. So yeah, like TikTok is showcasing that. And then I've made a promise, which we'll see. I'm like, fingers crossed, day by day. I am posting a video every single day for the whole year. So I'm now at 3 months, and I have like 80 videos that are in drafts in TikTok. So I'm really keeping up on it. And I would post the video, I would do the hashtags, I posted it between 4 to 6. But I wasn't really getting traction, and it wasn't happening. And my heart was really sad, because I'm like, doesn't anybody care? Like, it's so important. I'm always like, it's so important what I'm doing. So, you know, because I know it's a mission, right? To like help support and empower kids to create these safe spaces, to help them with bullying prevention, all of that. So finally I was like, all right, I'm going to go out and make this dream happen. And so my friend, who has a very big platform, who's doing very similar work to me, Donovan, is, you know, he had this amazing platform. And I started looking at all these amazing comments. I was like, well, what if I add all the nice comments and the people in their profiles, whether or not they have content or whatever, just add them. And like some of those will add me back. Well, then that started picking up traction. Then those people found me and they're like, oh my God, your platform is amazing and your content. And then they started writing comments, and I would write back. Then I was getting messages. Then I was getting people asking me to join preteen and coaching and all these things. And it just started taking off. So it's really the discipline, but it was also like, I'm going out to get that. I'm not just going to like wait for something to happen. And that's really been my approach, is like, yes, I have the dreams, but also it is hard and there's so many steps involved, and I'm going to make it happen. So I think
I love that. I mean, I think for all creators, like we all know, you know, social is really, really important, right? In terms of like drawing attention.
Yes.
And what I like what you're saying is it's about like connecting the dots for people, right? Like go find them, go find the people who like your stuff, and engage, right? Don't just sit back. It's not a lean back medium, right? It's very much a conversation. And so I think that's huge. And you know what I think is so interesting about TikTok is the kids are there, right? And so, or you know, Gen Z's there, millennials there as well. And learning's a really, it's an interesting format for getting exposure. Yes. And you know, the two things that like really resonate, and I, you know, we'll send the TikTok article if you haven't read it, is, you know, one, learning should be fun, right? I think when people think about learning, like learning is like the institution, you know, and I guess at Disco and TikTok, like learning's fun. You're there because you're enrolled. You want to be there, right? And that's far more powerful in terms of people being willing and able to accept messages when they want to be there.
It's consent.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, we do need to check in with like what lights our hearts up, what do we connect with, what do we want, and they're so like, little kids are so alive, right? They're so excited about exploring the world, and that sometimes, you know, I mean, I won't go into my feelings, but I just think that basically, like, we should always be connected to how we feel so that we can do things that we love. And that includes kids. Like they know what lights them up, and they should have the opportunity to explore that and build on that and not be pulled away from that. And that's what I love about the the work that I'm doing is like, they get to do drama, they get to do art, they get to talk about their feelings that they haven't been able to share with anybody sometimes.
Right.
Support each other. Like a lot of those conversations are facilitated to like help support healing for the other person from their
Sure. I love that. So just going back quickly to the TikTok, I love what you're saying. People want to be there. Also, creators are there, and people like yourself who are being creative,
Yes.
and where, influence is the new accreditation. And I think that's a super interesting thing. But here's what I want to talk about as well is like, what isn't it good at, because I think that's where we get really excited. Which is really about like, how do you make money, right? And I think there's been a lot of focus on social platforms to attract creators. But the reality, and I know this from my Wattpad days, is it's actually really hard to make money. And that's something that we care a lot about, is how do you make a sustainable living, not off of needing to have millions and millions of followers, but off of a couple cohorts of really engaged learners. And so maybe do you want to talk a little bit about how you think about monetization as a creator, and the role that cohort-based learning is playing, and maybe even some other streams that you're making money from as a creator?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to open with, money is not a bad thing. Like, I just want everybody listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have like a lot of feelings around this. And I feel like as you're saying it, I almost can feel like the audience watching being like, oh God, monetization. I thought this was just heart-centered. Money can be used to be, it's just something. It's just an object, and it can be used to do so much good. Now, I will say that I was poverty line up until 2 years ago, like when I started speaking and I started following my heart and just doing it my own way, like fully, like not just like, and going all in. So in terms of what TikTok is not, so for example, I have friends that have massive platforms, right? They have tons of eyes watching, like that 200,000, 50,000, like a lot of people. But when we have a conversation about business, they don't have anywhere to send that person, right? So people are like, oh my God, your content is amazing. But then actually, how do you make a living? And they're like, oh, it's just a side hobby. I just want to like share this. It's like, you can actually put those things together. Like if you want to, you really can. And sometimes I'll break it down. Like I've become quite business savvy. I never thought I would be, but I was like, if you have 50,000 people, if people paid you $1 a year, you'd have $50,000, right? And that would be more than a poverty line salary, right? So just kind of getting into those kinds of thinking. So TikTok showcases, right, like these moments or this content, but you have to actually have like a structure behind that. Like you have to, so what I'm so excited about is that now, like with being on Disco, so I'm in process of writing a book about the work I do with kids. I'm in process of launching a teen program that will be for older kids, right? That's like coming up next. And I also have the work that I do as a speaker. So I speak with parents, I speak with educators, and with kids. So all of that is on TikTok. When I'm using it, I will do a live and I will share from my heart, absolutely, these profound moments that, I'm experiencing with these kids and like all the things that are happening. But then I'll have a place to direct them. It's not just like, because before it was like, oh, Rachel, your stories are amazing from supply teaching. And like, I wish I could have my kid in your class. And I was like, me too. And like, I'm poverty line and I wish I had more money for food. Like, that's what I was thinking in my head. And I was like, do I ever get to like, actually, because my goal, because of all the trauma that I sustained through those years, I've had a lot of impact on my physical and emotional health. And so I've had to put money into my healing journey, but my whole goal is to do as much good as I can in the world. So I actually need money to help myself heal as I'm going towards these things to hold space for these kids and help families. So I definitely, I will, a badass at making money is a great book to like deal with those feelings of money and kind of our programming, because it's looking at our stories. But in terms of TikTok, I could have a large platform, but I'm somebody who is like less than some of my friends, but I am starting to have people approach me for this because I'm on Disco, because these things are linked and set up. So I have a structure.
I love that. I mean, I think the takeaway is great for exposure, but ultimately, parents pay, I don't want to say the wrong number. I think it's $279 for a quarter, right? For a season, for a cohort. And that's actually really reasonable, I would say, for the work that you're doing. And it actually adds up, right? Like you can have multiple cohorts, and now you have a really interesting way to actually drive people into a monetization product that's sustainable, right? That isn't just based on fame, that's actually based on, deep work. So I am super aware of the time, and I want to see if there's any questions. We would love to ask them to Rachel. And, if not, what I would say is, what is your, the last question that I have is, what is your highest hope? Like in 2 years from now, tell us about your learning empire and, what your highest hope is. And, we are so interested in working with creators like you to really help you, live your passion and purpose. So we'd love to hear how you think about in 2 years from now, when we're back on creator sessions, what are we going to be talking about?
All right. Well, I don't know if I can do the limited of 2, but first of all, I will have a published book in my hands, like the Untamed behind me. I never know which way. It's hard to do.
Yeah, right there.
Anyways, yeah. So I love that book. So my book will be back in that shelf for sure. Another thing is I will have the teen program going as well as the preteen program, because my preteens are like, oh my God, when I'm not a preteen, where do I go? So I will have that as well. But honestly, my biggest wish in terms of what I plan to do, and this is massive, so whatever, we can dream big, is I want to impact every single school around the world. And yes, I said it, around the world, to have restorative justice, to have teachers that are trauma informed, to have kids that have a process to, when they're being bullied, where to go, what to do, the adults being accountable. I want to have this whole structure in place so that every school around the world, and I might not make it to every school, but I'm planning is to be impacted by that, because every child should feel safe and supported and empowered. Nobody is ever going to have a perfect life, and life already, without being cruel to each other and ourselves, we already have illness, struggles, environmental things. We already have a lot of stuff to work on and struggle through and challenges, but we do not need to abuse each other. And we do not need to have spaces where kids are mandated by the governments to go, that they are being abused, and bullying is abuse. And I really want it to be recognized as that. And then I want it to be treated as that. Because if you had a child gushing blood in your class, you would call the hospital. You'd be like, we can't just leave them die in our classroom. So we do, unfortunately, have blood on our hands in terms of mental health and also lives, right? And the impact, the long-term impact. So that's what my goal is to impact every single school.
It's huge. Yeah, I love that. And what I will just say is I hope you do that in live cohort-based way, because I think that the reality of you having to go around the world to go into every school, no way. Cohorts of educators, right? Cohorts of parents is what I hear. It's sort of a much bigger vision around. It's actually not just triaging the kids who have this, it's actually being preventative and being able to have this transformative learning for all the different stakeholders. And I just love that. So we have one question here, which is, Rachel, who are some of your social media heroes that you look to for content inspiration?
Ooh, so somebody with a learning disability has a hard time pulling right away. But I'll say the first things that come to my mind. Donovan, so Donna Friend, and I think he might be on disco, but anyways, Donna Friend, and I can send this and we can link it after.
Sure.
He is somebody who does very similar work to me. Abby Wambach, so famous soccer player, married to Glennon Doyle. Her speech for Barnard about Wolfpack and women rising up, humans rising up, that's another person. I love Glennon Doyle's work as well. Ani DeFranco is one of my all-time favorite musicians. She created her own music company at 18 on her own, just doing it in the 90s. Who else can I tell you? Brene Brown, because honestly, Brene Brown and I would be besties, because the things that happen, and I'm Brene would be proud, and I know she would. Brene Brown would be one of them.
I'm reading, if anybody's doing like in terms of working on like building their cohort-based learning, I'm reading The Prosperous Coach right now. That's a really good by Rich Litvin. He's written like amazing work in terms of like structuring your coaching practice. There's so many.
That's that. I mean, I
think that's good.
I think that's great. And feel free to share, just tag us at Disco Learn on Twitter and you can share more. But I think that, so great to have you here and so much insight and just so much inspiration. Like, I hope, I hope there's so many more creators who get inspired by your story. And we are so excited to be working with you. So thank you for being a part of our community. And, just a quick shout out to everybody who's making this happen. Thank you to everybody at Disco. And next week, we have an incredible guest. Rachel, you should totally join us. His name is Billy Bros, and he is like the online marketing guru for live cohort-based courses. Like, he has helped some of the top creators in cohort-based learning really figure out how to market what they're doing. And so very excited to bring him on next Thursday. So please join us. And thanks so much. We're so excited to have you here and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Thanks, Rachel. You're amazing. Take care.